Hey, what's up? My name's Gerald. This is House of Gerald, and this is my first installation video. What I chose to install today is the Baja Designs front mount light bar that goes in the lower grille assembly on a 2017 plus Ford Raptor. Reason why I chose this was because I have an intercooler upgrade on my truck. I have the stock factory bumper, and I have this huge void now where the factory intercooler once was. It's just an open space. Looks really kind of ugly, especially if you look through the grate. So I've been wanting to get a light bar for a very long time, pretty much since I bought the truck 2 years ago. I procrastinated and put it off, and finally I decided to go ahead and break down and buy one. The reason I got this particular setup is because I wanted something that can be easily removed should I decide to ever sell the truck. I could keep this. This system that they have for this particular mount is such that, with the exception of the brackets that came with it, is totally reusable by other systems or anywhere. You can totally take the whole system out, and it uses factory holes to mount it. So I thought I'd go ahead and do an install video on this. I found it interesting when I started Googling or YouTubing the installation of this before I purchased it, that there was no videos on this particular setup of how to install it. I thought that was kind of odd until I bought it. Then I realized why. We'll get to that in a minute. When you purchase this, it comes in a big box, okay? It's a whole kit. You get the light bar, you get these mounting brackets, which are heavy steel and they're coated very well. And then also, you get all the mounting hardware, which is right here, that comes with the instructions, the nuts and bolts, and one zip tie for whatever reason, along with the Ford specific wiring harness that goes to the upfitter switches that are the factory switches in the center console or the overhead console. Sticker, warranty, and let's see here, there are some other parts in the bottom here. I'll get to those in a second. So here is the light bar itself. It's the On6 Plus. It's made of aircraft grade aluminum with mil-spec anodized coating. What this comes with is the driving combo. So the center 4 LEDs right here, as you can tell, they look different than the two outer ones. And that's because the center ones are a spotlight, and then these two, the reflectors are set up to go wide. So it projects out more to your sides. So you get best of both worlds essentially. Instead of having just one or the other, you have both. Just a quick couple specs on this. I actually had to write this down from the website. This thing on high, which is the only way I'm going to do it, you can actually wire this to be kind of a dual level. I don't see the need to have a dimmer on this because the whole point of having a light bar is to see more. So I'm not going to wire that. In the instructions, it does tell you you add an extra green wire to a outside switch, just an on-off switch, and then it will actually make this dim. Like I said, I'm not going to do that. When I started looking at the instructions, I realized real quick why there was no videos on how to install this. It's actually incredibly easy to wire. All you do is take the front grille assembly off, you use these, right? You mount this to there, and then these brackets actually mount right on the existing grille mounts. And then the wire runs up to your upfitter switches, which I'll show you later, and you crimp one wire and you ground the other wire, and that's it. It's actually a really simple install. I think the hardest part is going to be just routing the wire and make it look good. Really and truly, I think that's it. One thing to keep in mind is on the Fords in roughly 2018 sometime, they actually completely changed the color coding of the wires for the upfitter switches. So I got this after the fact. I actually found out about it via the internet because I got to looking at possibly adding accessories, and I noticed that the color codes of the wires I found did not match what was in the book. So I didn't know what was going on. So I took some research, and fortunately there was a gentleman that made a video on YouTube. I can't recall his name or the link. It's been probably 2 years since I looked at that video. It was a really good video. If you look for it, he'll show you what the difference is, and he actually created this before Ford actually officially released this change. So this came in the mail several months later from Ford. They finally acknowledged that they did change the wire color coding. I have no idea why they did that. It makes no sense to me. I'm guessing they just had a bulk amount of another wire versus what they had. Maybe they ran out, I don't know. This draws 8.4 amps at 108 watts. So they recommend either a 10 amp or more switch. So your upfitter switches, at least on the 2017 higher Raptors, I believe all of them are the same on the Gen 2s, and that is the first two are 15 amp, the middle two are 10 amp, and then the far right two are 5 amp switches. I'm gonna go ahead and wire it to the 15 amp because I like that it's the first switch. Just ergonomically, it's the first switch. It's the biggest reason. Plus, I don't have anything else connected at the moment, so I can always change that if I want to down the road. Other little neat facts. This is a 12,460 lumen light, which compared to other, especially generic LED light bars, is at least twice, if not 3 times the light output. That's insanely bright. Fortunately, it's daylight right now. I can't wait to actually test this thing on the road. Which backs up to the reason why I wanted to get one in the first place. What I found, I live up here in western Wyoming. It's very mountainous. There's a lot of wildlife. There's a lot of critters and animals. And especially in the winter, you know, the sun's only up for a short window. And so when I go to work and I come home, it's usually dark and I'm driving in the mountains. And so I really wanted better light than the factory headlights. So that's what this comes in. You just have to be careful because, you know, you're going to blind oncoming traffic. So you have to really be on your trigger to make sure you don't blind oncoming traffic. But there is definitely a use for this out here in the sticks. What I was getting into before was in the packaging, it comes with all this as a kit. So you can buy this light separately. You can actually buy this wiring harness separately. The hardware kit and the brackets, I think you might be able to get in a combo kit. They actually have an accessory mount kit just for generic mounting. But this is specific for the Raptor, so I'm not sure you can actually just buy this mounting kit. I don't know, you might try contacting them and see. Also in the box, you get tape to the bottom, which doesn't want to come out very easily. Looks like generic mounting hardware. Okay, yeah, so you get extra connectors, both straight and right angle it appears, and you get mounting brackets so that if you wanted to mount this to something other than the Ford Raptor, you have all the hardware with it. So that's nice. So that's a bonus. So if I do sell the vehicle or I change where I want to put this, I got everything I need. Very cool. And before I get into the installation of this, I just wanted to say this video is no way sponsored or paid for. I paid for this out of pocket. I bought it with my own money. And yeah, it's not in any way, shape, or form sponsored. So without further ado, let's go install it. So when I said it was an easy install, I really meant that it's an easy install. So much so that the instructions are quite literally 2 pages long. Let me show you. You see here, you have all of 3 steps. And then here, you have all of 4 steps. Really and truly, the hardest part is bolting it and then wiring it. Other than that, it's really easy. So, without further ado, let me show you just how easy that is. Okay, so one thing I did was I went ahead and pre-assembled the brackets. What I found was that the included hardware for the Raptor mod did not have all the hardware needed to mount the brackets. You will need to open up the actual kit that came with the light itself so that you can actually bolt it together, much like I did here. I went ahead and tightened these down. I tried to leave it pretty much as flat as possible because I want this to shoot straight out. And a little trick I did so that you know you have these mounted perfectly together in alignment with each other is just set it down on the ground. Oh, see that? It's still got a little bit of play. But essentially, if you set this down, it'll sit on the back side of this, and it should sit even. Anyways, on to the installation. All right, so to remove this portion of the grill, it's actually really, really easy. It's just set in with press pins. There's nothing bolting it on. If you pull really carefully, you can actually yank the whole thing out. I've done it before, but it doesn't always want to come out easily. There it goes. I went ahead and grabbed a trim pry tool just to kind of help it. This whole thing is just held in with snap clips. There you go. There we go. And just like that, it's out. So where that light bar is going to mount is it's going to go right here and bolt to this. These existing tabs are what it's going to bolt to. So before you do that though, you have to take and break the tabs off of this. You just cut these off so that it doesn't interfere with the bolts that are going to be going right here. And then also, if you've got any clips like that one, you need to take those out. So one thing about cutting these, they're actually really easy. All you do is take a razor knife and score each side of them, and then you take a pair of pliers and bend it back and forth and then give it a little twist and they come right off. I don't know if you need to actually cut these perfectly flush because that's going to take a little more work, but we will see. And don't forget to also take out all the extra little metal tabs because they're supposed to stay on the plastic, but they don't. And so you want to pull all those out, put them back on the cover before you put it back on. I might want to try and route the cables now before I get too carried away. All right, I went ahead and fed the wire up through here. It actually comes up through here and all the way. I pulled this tab off of here using this guy, right? Your trim removal tool. And then I used my trusty gripper. I fed it down through here, all the way down. It came down just right up in here, and then you can reach that from here. I actually have a hole back up in there that was able to feed it up through here into there. And what that did was it brought the cable out here, but I didn't want it here. I wanted it on the other side of this cross member. So fortunately, if you look down in here, there is actually a pass-through down there. There's actually a couple bundles of wires down there, and it's just below the radiator hose. So if you look down in there, you can just barely see the black cable. In fact, I'll shake it. See it moving? And it passes through this rubber coating right here, this rubber stuff, and it comes out right here. And then I just pull off enough slack, and that's it. So then what it'll do is it will wire to these. These are your upfitter switch wires. They're normally strapped around here. I actually located mine and zip tied them here for future use. They're hidden pretty well from the factory. You can see, if you look down here, way back in here, there's another set right back way up deep in there. That, I believe, is your pass-through, so that if you wanted to mount accessories inside the cab, you can do that. But these are for the upfitter switches, I believe, from everything I understand. And the color codes match, so I guess we'll find out if they actually work. Stay tuned. As you can see, here are the 4 mounting locations for the new light. And normally your factory intercooler is sitting right here. And I've always leery about putting a light in front of it because it's already restricted for airflow, and you put anything in front of it, I would think that would be bad. But fortunately, you can see back in behind here, this gray outline, I have an aftermarket intercooler, much bigger, much better. So I removed the factory one. So I have all this dead space. I do suggest getting a magnetic holder for your parts, by the way. It's quite handy. I can just stick it right there and I don't lose all my nuts and bolts. So I stick this in there, push it back behind, and this should theoretically line up with just like that. So you're gonna have to take that in there. It's kind of a trick to get to. You don't have as much room back here as you think you do to actually get your hand back behind here. But if I do this right, I should be able to. Oops. Good. Okay, so that one's on. Now I gotta do the same thing over here. They don't give you a lot of room in here to work on. It'd probably be better if you could take the bumper off, but that's a bit extreme just to put a light fixture on. So I just gotta try and weed this back here with my fingers, just like that. That worked. Now I just gotta repeat a couple times. All right, so update. What I found the easiest way to do is to take a full ratchet like this. I got a 3/8 drive ratchet. I've got the, what is that, a 6-inch extension and 10mm socket. And then this is a 4mm hex driver. So for whatever reason, the hardware to mount the light, the new bracket for the Raptor is metric. The hardware to mount the light to the bracket that comes with the light fixture is standard. It's a 7/16. So just know that you'll need both metric and standard. But what I did was I took and aligned the tabs of here so that they're equally spaced on these inner ears. But I went ahead and did that so I can go ahead and tighten this hole down because I don't want to have to get back in here because this is a pain to get back in here. It might be easier if you take the lower skid plate off, which you can do, but I was trying to avoid doing that. You know, in the long run, it actually might be easier just to do that. So now I've got these two as tight as I can get them. Now I just have to tighten these two. And essentially what you have to do is get in here with your ratchet. See, I'm not going to be able to reach that one. I'm going to have to come over on this side to do it. But you just kind of weed this up here and you can reach the bolt and then you hold it with the hex driver and then you ratchet with the other arm. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it works. So let's get the other ones done and we'll go from there. All right, now I've got that all mounted. It's not going nowhere. I didn't actually take a torque wrench, but I hand tightened everything as tight as I could get it with my hand. Should be good to go. So what the zip tie is for, that comes with the package is you're supposed to take this, let's see here, where is it at? And I think you're supposed to zip tie this to there just to kind of keep it against the bumper. Really and truly, for my vehicle, it doesn't matter because I don't have the louvers that come in here. They're afraid you're going to hit the louvers. Now I've got the cable run. It's just sitting here. As you can see, this is a built-in cable splice. So you lay the wire on there and then you turn this over and split it. Here are my upfitter switch wiring. If you look here at the color codes, what I want is the top one here, green and white for aux number 1. If you look at the factory, it does match. Green and white is aux number 1. So fortunately with the Baja Designs, they actually give you the wiring color code, which is kind of cool. So I want to go through here and find what is green and white, which is that one right there. So I'm going to pull that out of here while leaving the rest in here for now. So as you can see here, this is the green and white wire. It's mostly green, little white stripe. So I'm going to wire the white wire to that, and then this black wire will go to ground. So I need to find a ground, which is possibly that bolt right there. And then the green is for that switch, like I was talking about earlier, where if you wanted to have a dim on it, you would wire this to an on-off switch that would, and then to ground, which would add an extra ground to the light to make it dimmer. I'm not going to use that, so that's not going to be used. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and crimp these two and go from there. I went ahead and spliced this guy. I don't like these types of connectors where they actually kind of sister them next to each other and use like a pinch crimp connector, but that's what it gives you in the kit, and I went ahead and used it for ease of use. But really and truly, it should be a true butt splice that goes through here and then heat shrunk. We'll see how this works. If I have any issues, I'll replace this. This ground, again, I'm not using the green wire anyways. And then what I did was I found a body ground right here. It's actually an 8mm bolt, and there's a cable coming here. I'm not sure if it comes from the battery or one of the control modules, but there actually is a wire that's grounded right here. So I went ahead and connected the ground. Once this is all done, then I'll go through and clean up the wire mess. You know, you can see I kind of routed it through behind the battery and then down and around. I'll go ahead and zip tie all that stuff once it's all done. So it's all connected. So fingers crossed, if I can find my keys, and then we're going to start the truck up, or at least turn the accessories on, and see if this light works. All right, I'm going to get in the vehicle. First we'll try the aux switch without the ignition on and see if that works. Don't see anything, so let's turn the accessory on. Now let's see if it works. Yep, I believe I have light. The interesting thing though, is it seems like the middle ones are kind of dimmer, but maybe that's just the angle I'm on. Wow. It's putting off some serious heat though. Wow, I can feel that. All right, I went ahead and turned everything off. The timer will get the rest. Now it's time to see if this cover fits on here, because there's not much I can do down here for cleaning up the wiring, really and truly. I don't believe. You know what, actually, let me get rid of that. Because what this is doing is it's actually forcing the wire to go in against a piece of steel right here. I don't like that. I want this, yeah, that's a lot better. So that wire can just kind of hang out there. It'll probably flap around a little bit, but that is what it is. Yeah, I'm gonna zip tie that right there. So, how is that cable doing? Not too bad. It kind of flips around a little bit, but there's nowhere else to anchor it, so call it good. Let's see if this fits now. All right, hopefully. No. Let's try putting it right side up. That might help. Yeah. One thing you'll notice, at least I noticed right off the bat, and I'm guessing this is probably why you have to actually trim it a little better. You can see here, this is kind of bowed out a little bit, and I think that's because those nuts are there and you have to actually shave off that extra from the little tabs. But it actually fits. I'm not going to complain too much for now. We'll see how that works. I may actually take that out and actually trim that down and make it correct. We'll see. Right now I just want something functional. We'll see if I like it and go from there. Oh yeah, as you can see, this whole thing is flush now, whereas before it was not. Sanding those down helped tremendously. And there you go. there's the finished product. It's kind of covert, kind of hidden, but yet you can still kind of see it. Much like my intercooler that I put on. If you really look, you can see it. Otherwise, people are none the wiser that you have performance mods on here or lighting. So, yeah, bang up job.